Well, good evening. I'm Art Tamrowski, and you've noticed the name Tamrowski. That's Polish, Tamrowski. And you know what this is? This is October's Polish Heritage Month, and we're celebrating it by asking the two sisters, the Siembida sisters of Perry, New York, to join me. And on my left here is
I'm Lucy Siembida.
Lucy Siembida, and you are...
And I'm Pearl Siembida.
Okay, now Pearl and Lucy have been with us for a long time, and I think in terms of people who have been living in Perry, we get the Siembida sisters mixed up as twins, we get them mixed up as who do they think they are? They know everything about Polish. Well, we're going to ask about Polish tonight, and we're going to start with the oldest sister, Lucy.
No, Pearl.
Pearl.
No, I was born in the house that we live in, and that was 78 years ago. I'll be 79 in October.
Boy, that's marvelous. Gosh, and where are you living?
At 37 Walnut Street, Perry, New York.
And you also then?
Yeah, I was born in the house we live in. I'm 76. My birthday was just June 3rd.
Father came to DePue to his oldest brother, George, and our mother came to Mrs. Trojka, and she was a ksiądz from Poland. They were neighbors, because you had to have someone sponsor you to get to the United States.
Now, see, my grandparents came from Poland in 1878, and all they had when they got to Ellis Island off of the ship, the Bremenhaven, they had a ticket that said a name of somebody on Stanislaus Street in Buffalo, New York. And in Ellis Island, they shipped them over to a train station in New York City and zapped them over to the Buffalo terminal. And that's how they landed in Buffalo with relatives. And that's how the Trojkas would sponsor people as well, right? Why did they come to Perry then?
Well, Mr. Rozansky was living in Perry, and George Traber from the Perry Knitting Company needed people. And so Mr. Rozansky would recruit people in DePue and in Buffalo. And that's how our parents came to work in the Perry Knitting Company.
So nobody knew when they left Poland that they were going to Perry. They knew that there was work available. Is that right?
That is right. And they left Poland to find a better place to live in, because they lived on the farms and they were very poor, so they wanted to better themselves.
Life in Poland in the poorest section, you know, what did your mother and father do there in Poland? You said
Well, they just,
chambermaid, or-
yes, and then they worked out in the farms.
Okay, now, when they got to Perry, I have not seen any photographs of Perry in 1910, but on Walnut Street, were you able to have a cow or chickens or anything?
Oh, yes, we used to have chickens. Well, we had quite a few chickens. That's the only thing. We didn't have any cows.
Yeah, you could have had one cow, maybe? Did your
probably-
neighbors have one cow?
No, I don't think any of us
They had
did.
horses.
Yeah.
Our neighbor had a horse, but no cows, but we always had chickens and guinea hens.
The guinea hens, are they good for eating or are they good pets?
Oh, they're good to eat. Oh, yeah.
I always wanted a guinea pig, but my neighbor in Castile complained about the guinea rooster making all that noise in the morning, and I got rid of him. Now I listen to barking dogs in Castile.
Well, our father got the guinea hens from our uncle Topolsky and Mr. Yakubushek. They always had some joke to bring to him for his birthday. So one year they brought him guinea hens, and one year they brought him a little pig.
Did he have the pig there on Walnut Street?
He had the pig for a little while, and then he gave it to Mr. Yakubushek to take care of until they butchered it.
Okay. Did the pig have a name?
No, the pig didn't have a name.
No. So you never did milk a cow in the backyard of your house?
No,
Yeah.
we didn't.
How many brothers and sisters did you have there?
Well, we have two brothers, and there were 5 of us girls, so there were 7 of us.
And now you the two of you sisters are the remaining sisters, right?
Correct, right. That's all that's left of the 7.
Okay, now can you give me the names of your older sisters?
It was my sister Helen, and she was married to Frank Foltash. His name was, they called him Slip. And then there was my sister Mary, and she married in Rochester because of the strike. She went to live in Rochester, and so she married a Walter Schweikos. And then there was my brother Walter, and they called him Slim, and he married a lady from Batavia. And then there was Felix, and then there was Pearl, and then Lucy, and then the youngest one was Jane. She died in 1932.
Very young.
Oh, 9 months old.
Infancy. Yeah.
Right. She had pneumonia. And at that time, they didn't have penicillin or whatever to cure her, so.
That in size, 7 in a family, that's considered just an average size in those days. Is that right?
Yes, I think so. And they moved here from Depew in 1922, and they bought the house that we live in. And I was born at that house. So
It must have been a shock to the people of Perry to see all these people from Poland coming into the village. And it was Traber who wanted and who enlisted the help. Is that
Right, that's right. And that's why we, where we live, Water Street and Walnut Street and all that vicinity, that was like a Polish community.
Yeah, it was a regular ghetto.
Oh, yes, that's it. And we had all kinds of stores. We had grocery shops, and we had a butcher, barber, and a gasoline station, and a baker. Every kind of job that anybody wanted, they had.
Did everybody speak Polish in these shops and pastry stores?
That's all we talked is Polish. When I went to school when I was 6 years old, I did not know my name in English. All we spoke was Polish.
And same with
Same
you.
with me, yes. Yeah.
Now, where was the school? Was it the school that's up there?
That's right. That's the school. And we had to run home for lunch, not like the kids have now. Buses pick them up in front of the house. We ran home for lunch, fixed our lunch, and ran back to school.
Was your mother working in the knitting mill?
Yes, our mother was working in the knitting mill, and we also fixed her lunch, took it to her, and then we went back to school.
Do you believe that?
Yes, I do, because I did it once. I'll never forget. I can still see it when my mother was working in the winding room. That's what they call the winding room. And I took her lunch, and I turned my head the wrong way, and I bumped into a truck, and I fell down. I'll never forget that.
What did they do with their body? Throw it, take it back to school, or did they just slap the fool out of you?
Yeah, nothing happened to me. It was just, I guess, just
The rush that you were.
right.
Did that happen every day?
Every day we went the same thing. We ran home from school, fixed her lunch, and we went back to school. And then when she came home from work, and our father had gone to work, and she fixed his lunch pail, and we took it down to the knitting mill. And my father was a baseball fan, and we had to take the scores from the radio always and take the scores down to them because all the men were waiting to find out which team won.
Now, these scores, what league are you talking about?
I do not know. All I know is that I took all of the leagues down. I had them all listed from the newspaper, and then as they gave the scores over the radio, we took them down to them.
Okay, what year was that, do you think, then?
Oh, it must have been about 36.
Oh, okay, so we've got the Yankees in there, Babe Ruth and everything.
Oh, yes.
Okay, my head is going way back further, you know, I'm thinking Sandlot and then, but, okay, we're talking 30s, and in the 30s, we have the Depression. How did the Depression affect the Polish ghetto in Perry?
Well, we were really, our father worked in the farms, and he would get paid by the poultry or the vegetables that they had on the farms. So it was very hard for us. I wouldn't want the Depression again.
No, it was just nothing but the barter system. So you had either the chickens or the squirrel
Right,
or whatever the farmer had, who your father worked for to have on the table. Was there any potatoes around?
Oh, yes, yes. We had potatoes and cabbage, the vegetables. And
Our father used to go hunting, and he'd kill the squirrels or rabbits, and that's what we had. And the turkey was a delicacy. We never had turkey until in our later years when we went to work, because you could not afford to buy a turkey.
So you're talking about a wild turkey? A wild turkey
No,
or a
no.
turkey? A ranch turkey?
Ranch turkey that you buy now for
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
So how old were you when you had that turkey?
Oh, I was about 17 or 18 years old.
To have tasted a ranch turkey?
That's right.
Not frozen? Not from Wegmans, not from IGA?
no.
I think these stories are significant because this is Polish Heritage Month, and so many people just think that life is MTV and pop culture. And I think when I talk to the both of you, you represent so much history in this village. You've lived through it, you've done it all, and I'm not finishing up by any means, because I want to know why the Polish church was just chosen as opposed to just St. Joe's, How about you telling me that one?
Well,
Why is St. Stanislaus up there instead of big St. Joe's for everybody in the world?
well, you see, there was no Polish church, and all these people could only talk in Polish. And so when they'd go up to St. Joe's, they would ask the pastor there to have a Polish priest once a month to hear their confession.
Oh,
And so they were told, get your own church.
really?
Yes,
Get your own
Polish church,
priest as well?
right? So they did. They went to Buffalo, to the Buffalo Diocese, and Bishop Colton said, okay, you can build your church. So actually, the first church was where we have our cemetery down on Water Street.
Uh-huh.
It was a house. And it was not until 1910 that they built the church that we have now on 77 Water Street.
I see.
And Father Rudzinski was our first pastor. And he used to come from Buffalo, and so he caught pneumonia, and he died very shortly. So he wasn't a priest very long in Perry. So we've had several priests since then.
Last March, it was in Lent, and I went to the Polish church there. I call it the Polish church as if I was not. But I never felt such love and such warmth when I got to that church. Everybody I greeted, Helen Cicero, Helen Mazinski, I saw you guys there. It was just like coming home to see something in Lancaster, I was sort of absorbed into the American culture. But you people, you had a priest who would speak Polish to you
Right.
for confession. How
Right.
marvelous. I got a question. Because it was Water Street, because it was a ghetto, were there people who were thinking about you as being different because you were Polish and from out of town?
Oh, they sure did. We were always called the people on the other side of the track, and they did not want to associate. And the Polish people had a very difficult time in this town to get into any public office or to be known for anything but our hard work.
I know. If people know, but they don't want to know about the empire of the Polish, country. And I think, here we are, 2001, and now we look at Puerto Ricans and Hispanics and people from Guatemala coming into this country, and we see them coming from Dominican Republic, and those people are where the Polish people were in 1910. And it's going to take a long time to assimilate, don't you agree?
Yeah, well, we have to mention that there were Italian people too.
Yes, I know.
Not as many as there were the Polish. And they were kind of looking at the other guy to do the work.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I heard stories about the Bonadonna store being down here, and then, I hate to say old man Montesanos, there was sort of a caste system. I have heard this. I remember when I first came here 40 years ago, I lived on 43 North Main Street across from the Village Hall, my wife and I. Now, my wife is Dutch, Irish, English, and Scotch. And so she doesn't have the Tamrowski name. But we had a repairman come by, and I says, gee, what do you do here in town? He says, well, seeing you're new in town, you might belong better on Water Street. And this is in 1960. I came here to teach school, you know. And the Water Street sounded like such an awful place, you know, from the way this kid talked. He was just a repairman. I was making more money than the repairman, but he felt this haughty attitude.
Right.
You know. And so what I've been happy about in the past 40 years is seeing this change.
And at one time, there were about 500 individuals living in Perry, Polish, and that's why they settled it all down in Water Street and Walnut Street and Park Avenue. And the houses at that time, you could eat off the streets. That's how clean they were.
Well, if you want to see clean, they always say go to a Polish yard, Polish home, or anything. Yeah, I hate to boast there, but I mean, it's not a downer in terms of Polish people. Yeah. Okay. Now, you had your daughters, your sisters, your daughters living in Syracuse, right?
No.
Yeah.
In Ohio, no.
She's in
Ohio.
Yeah. And now, how many Polish children of yours, your generation, have moved away from Perry?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I can't remember
Not the exact
now.
number, but is it a large portion?
Oh, yes, yes, it is. There's just nothing for them in Perry, so they just have to move out.
Yeah. As the other young people in this village, right?
Oh, not very many of them. There are very few Polish people, and there has been so many intermarriages that they've lost contact with a lot of the Polish people. And
Well, you people keep on the tradition. You know, when I say you people, you Siembida sisters.
Oh, yes.
Oh, when I first hooked up with Ann Humphrey in the Arts Council, she would always talk so glowingly about Lucy and Pearl Siembida and how you keep everybody on tack. You know, it's wonderful. You have a brain and you use it.
Well, we're saying, well, when we're gone, I guess everything else will be gone too, because the younger generation just hasn't got the oomph to carry it on or something. I don't know.
The nationalism is gone, it seems. I mean, they didn't struggle with the chicken coop or the guinea hens or search, have to go home for lunch, make the lunch, and deliver it to the factory and scamper off to school. This is amazing stuff. And I'm so glad that you're telling this, because there are people in their 40s, Polish descent, who have never heard of such a story and never wanted to hear it when they were kids either, because I'm taking up this whole interview with my mouth. You know.
No, you're interesting too, after all.
we have almost all of our nieces and nephews are intermarried, but they all keep up the Polish tradition. They still have their Wingilia for Christmas Eve, and they have their Easter blessings of baskets. And so we're pretty proud of them, because our niece was Polish, and she had married a German, and I don't know what else George was, but they were wonderful, and they brought up their children the Polish way.
Well, that's marvelous. I mean, as I said, I married Aggie, my wife, and our children now are such a mix, and then they married into other mixes and so on. And I think that's the story of America, but the beginning generation doesn't have it easy, do they?
Oh, no. The beginning, and if you married out of your nationality, that was a no-no.
Oh.
You always married into your own nationality.
Yeah, and God forbid if you married an Italian.
Oh, yeah.
And if an Italian married a Polish person.
Yeah, that
my
was
God.
terrible.
Yeah, nobody can get upset about this today, because In 1940, I remember during World War II, they'd say, well, she ran off and married an Italian. And you'd think that all hell was going to freeze over.
That's right.
Yeah. Tell me about World War II. Were there a lot of Polish boys from Perry going into World War II?
Yes, there sure were. And there were two of them that were killed. Mike Surutel and Raymond Kowaczynski were killed in the service. And our brother Slim Walter went. He was drafted in 1940, and he said to my sister when she was pregnant, "I hope you don't have another boy to have to go into war." But he was counting his months to come home, and then the war broke out, and he served, and he did not know how to drive, and he learned how to drive in around Russia, and he served. He he protected Roosevelt at Tehran.
Delano Roosevelt?
Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He was one of the guards at Tehran when he was there.
Yes, because there was a big summit meeting in Tehran.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. What a marvelous story to come back to Perry with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, we talk about our Polish ancestors who also came from Poland, say, 1890, 1900, earlier, even 1910. They even fought the war in 1916, World War I. They went back to the other side to fight against, what they left.
Yeah, there were several. Go ahead, Pearl.
There were several of them. There was Tony Televitz and Walter Odemawa was on the American side, but Guncharczyk and Mozgava, and quite a few of them did not come back. Dubiel and I can't remember the other names, but there were several Polish men that did not return from the war.
Yeah, see, that's quite a legacy of patriots. They came here for probably 5 to 10 years, and then suddenly had to defend the country that was treating them as immigrants. And I think it's a real marvelous thing, that we can be around today and say how everybody succeeded. What this program was good about, what we're talking about tonight, is that there's a lot of Polish, having been to Poland, I like to see what the people have done. Those people in Poland just have been under communism for so long that it's difficult for them to get back into the Republic attitude. And so we are lucky in many ways.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you're a long ways from having to milk the cow and bringing that milk into the house, at night, and starting to peel potatoes at the top of the morning. But you did have what for breakfast every day?
We usually had bread and butter and a cup of coffee or milk, and we used to go up the street to bring the milk in a milk can from Kościelniaks because they had cows.
Yeah.
And so we paid 8 cents for a can of milk, and that can carried about almost 2 quarts.
2 quarts of milk, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I in another show we'll show about a lot of the heroes of Russian music or Polish music. Polish art, Polish history, and what I'm proud to say is that in the Polish tradition of 1,000 years of an empire, the millennium being 1966 for Poland, that's quite a quotient. And the fact that our friends, like Franz Liszt and Franz Schubert, Chopin would go to Paris, and there was this mix of Polish and French people in history, is a lot that people never have ever stopped to think about.
That's right.
And that's why I like, I get all kinds of, not accolades, but people thanking me for showing those little scenes that I show of Poland, from
I like that.
Yeah. And I do, I was in tears, but I had some of the best food when I was in Poland.
Yeah.
Now tell me, are you taking those recipes of yours to the grave?
No, as a matter of fact, you know, when somebody wants some, they're making up a new cookbook.
Yes.
Okay, I type up the recipes and send it to them, like for Gołąbki or for borscht, you know, some of the.
Gosh, I'd like to have your borscht. Yeah. I'd
Pearl makes that.
Pearl, you make the borscht?
Yeah,
Yes.
she makes the borscht.
Some people make it out of sausage, but I like to make ours out of spare ribs or a pork bone, and for the stock. And I boil that until it's all, and I put in celery and parsley and a little bit of a dill for seasoning. Use very little salt or no salt at all because there is enough of salt from the vegetables. And then when it's all done, I cream it. I put part of cream and part of milk. I beat them up with flour, and I pour it in there. And then we serve the borscht with, this is the white borscht that we have. And we serve it at mostly at Easter time with sausages and rye bread and boiled eggs and horseradish and cheese and bacon.
My cholesterol just went up listening to you. But you know, that kind of recipe and that kind of food would be worn out of your veins from working hard, you know.
Well, and I also make what we call the red borscht. That's from beets. I make it more or less the same way, but I put beets in before I cream it.
Okay, did your mother give you that recipe?
Yes, my mother gave me a recipe for all of our soups: tomato soup and bean soup and sauerkraut. And
Then why are you girls donating it? Why don't you write your own cookbook? My gosh, you could start out selling it right here at the studio, and you could start selling it at the library. You know, gosh.
We never gave it a thought.
Well, my God, you need an agent, you know, and you need someone to talk to, because you know, authentic Polish cooking is so good. Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people, you know, I have a lot of European friends who just say, Art, when you go to Broadway Market, get the Polish sausage and the rye bread and drop it off. You've heard that all your life.
oh, that's right, because you can't beat Wardyński sausage. It is the best.
No, that's a commercial, isn't it?
Oh yeah, but they didn't hear that.
Yeah, well, no, I always push Linsky's myself. But you know, I think our tape is running short.
Sure.
And I've had a wonderful time chatting with you guys, girls.
Well, we didn't cover anything from Dumpolsky.
Yes, I want to. Hurry.
That was started in 1921, but the new building was built in 1930 somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And they went around the houses. In fact, our father was one of the men that went around at the houses to collect money to build the building, and they'd get 25 cents and 50 cents because it was Depression time.
Yes. And Dumpolski means domo, home, home of the Polish.
Home of the Polish.
Yes.
And then they've always had all their meetings there and dances years ago. And now when we just had a Polish dance for fundraising that we had from our church, and we had an orchestra from Buffalo, and they played all kinds of music, Polish, Obedeki, and English pieces. And everybody, I guess, had a good time.
Yeah. When you say Obedeki, you mean Obedek.
Obedek.
I don't know. I hate to correct a Polish person, but that's what I know.
Obedek.
Yeah.
That's right. And waltzes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, it was wonderful talking with you, ladies. Yeah. I hate to close the show. I'd like to continue more of this sometime in the future, okay?
Well, we thank you very much for asking us because we're very proud of our Polish heritage.
Oh, if none other in Perry are, you two, I have heard all my life are. And you support St. Stanislaus, you support Dumpolski, you support the Polish attitude. And last year, I remember you were going to have an art show at the Arts Council, and maybe that'll come to pass again. But we'll have to still work on it. We'll have to convince these people in the Arts Council that we are Polish and we are serious and we are here to stay. There's only been 120 some years, but We're here.
We're here, and we're gonna stay.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Polish Heritage Month. I hope you enjoyed listening to a little bit of history. We've got more to cover in time to come. Thanks for watching, and good night.